2022. Could you please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Our first item on the agenda tonight is item 408. It's an appointment for the accounting department. Mr. Denizio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to recommend the appointment of Dina Ahmed for a position in the accounting department. Dina is here with us tonight, and Dina grew up here in Burlington. She went through the Burlington school system. After graduating from Burlington High, she went to University of Massachusetts at Lowell, where she was a biology major and graduated from there. She spent some time in the biomedical field after that, and then a little bit of time in the public education field, and for the last few years has been in the municipal environment as a wellness coordinator in Billerica. Ms. Ahmed, through our interview process, demonstrated the work ethic, attention to detail, and customer service skills necessary to integrate nicely into the finance team here. And if you can pardon my pun, she'll be a real asset to the team. Knew I was gonna get that in no matter what. So it's with great pleasure that I submit Dina Ahmed for the appointment in the accounting department, effective March 21st, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Denizio. Mr. Sagarino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With John's recommendation, I appoint Dina Ahmed to the position of accounting technician in the Town of Burlington Accounting Department and ask that the board waive its 15-day waiting period.
So moved. Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor of waiving the 15-day waiting period?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 500.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Congratulations, Dean. Welcome aboard. Congratulations. Congratulations. Welcome.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is 409, election warrant for signatures approval. Ms. Warfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amy Warfield, the town clerk. Just coming before you, thank you for signing the warrant. The warrant is the vehicle that we need to be able to post, to be able to run our election, which is April 9th this year, Saturday. And just to catch you up, we will have new voting equipment, as well as new, we have electronic check-in pads now. So hopefully be able to utilize some of that technology to help voters move through the process. The other thing is we should be, we do not have this year, because legislation does not allow it, we do not have early voting. We don't have vote by mail, but we have regular standard absentee ballots, which everybody a lot of people have used before. Those can be requested at any point in time now, so they could fill out an application, which is on our website. We would mail those out when they come in. They usually come in about 3 weeks before the election, so we're looking for about March 18th. We will get those. We'll get them mailed out. And then anyone who is unable to come to the polls the day of election is also able to come to the office and do absentee voting in the office if they want to.
Thank you. Any questions on this board? I just have one quick question. When
Sure.
you say they can come into the office, what's the time frame that they're allowed to come into the office?
Anytime after we physically get the ballots, up until noon the day before the election. So noon on April 8th, they would need to have come in and filled out an application for it. Mailing out this year will, the Wednesday, the 5th will be the last day we can mail out. We do realize that there's a lag right now with having to mail things. People cannot walk out with a ballot. they have to either do it in person or we would mail it to them. And we're really going to push too with people that remember that they can return it to our drop box that's on the steps of Town Hall in front, or there's also a drop box on the side, over by the parking lot, the side door that is towards the parking lot, so people can drop it themselves, whenever they are available.
Thank you.
Just a comment, and I've said this to Amy, and I said it to her again tonight. I'm so proud of what we do here in Burlington, and Amy stands out as one of those people who does it better than any. I mean, our elections are damn near perfect every time. They're clean, they're safe. I watch TV and I start yelling at the TV, call Amy. She'll tell you how to do it right. So thank you for what you do for the town, especially this time of year.
Well, thank you very much. It's a big team. It starts with my staff, the election workers that work that day, but thank you. And it's my privilege to do it for the town and my privilege to lead that group of people to do the work that we do.
Anything further? Being none, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the election warrant for signatures.
So made.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Next item on the agenda is number 410, the North Shore Water Resilience Task Force. Mr. Sagarino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several months ago, we received an email from Senator Bruce Tarr at the State House requesting Representative Gordon, as well as a representative of the town, to meet with them about a new group task force that they're starting, which is going to consider the health and sustainability of the Ipswich River watershed, a large portion of which is contained within the town. So what they were looking for is a representative from Burlington to sit on this task force. And I immediately thought of John Keeley. I know that he has a lot of expertise in this area. And John was very kind enough to sit in on that meeting. He's here tonight if there are any questions. John, I don't know if you have anything you want to add about the task force. You're more than welcome to come up and talk to us about that. But I just wanted to get the board's approval for having John represent the town on this important task force. And again, it's the Ipswich River watershed. And John, can you just tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure, thanks, Paul. So the Ipswich River watershed is one of the most endangered rivers in the United States because it doesn't really have enough water to supply the needs of all the communities that withdraw from it. And that's a lot of communities. Big communities like Salem and Beverly and Lynn take water from the Ipswich River. So we're in the watershed, but we don't take any water from it, but they're still looking for our representation. They're trying to figure out ways of, preserving the flows of the river and keeping the ecological health of the river, along with providing the water for the communities that it provides drinking water for.
Mr. Kelly. Any comments, questions? I'll start with Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, how's this differ from earlier this year? We received some grant money to participate in a wetland study or a watershed study here.
So that's our MVP grant. So that's totally related to climate change resilience, and that's in the Mystic Basin. So, in the Vinebrook Basin, which is part of the Shawsheen. And so that's not really related to water supply so much. This one is really related to providing water for the communities in the Ipswich Basin.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Randy.
No.
Mr. Priest.
Only one question. John, do you think that there'll be any opportunity to have a conversation about the Shawsheen watershed, only because of it, it affects us, it affects Andover. I know that it's not part of the Ipswich, but do you think that that'll come up in the conversation?
So I'm not really sure. There are a few communities like Burlington, Wilmington, Tewksbury, Andover that are in both basins, so it's possible. And probably part of the strategy may be to withdraw more water from the Shawsheen or the Merrimack in some of those communities to provide water as an alternative. But it's all about quantity. It's not really about water quality issues.
Sure. Yeah, when I was reading through it, I just noticed that, like you said, there are a couple towns that are in both,
Yeah.
right? And it almost seemed like a miss if we're talking about keeping water within the system, if we weren't talking about both as part of the
Yeah.
conversation. If you can bring it up and
Okay.
they want to entertain it, I think that'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Priest. Mr. Hogan.
No, I think I'm good.
All right. I got nothing for Mr. Keeley, so, therefore I'll be looking for a motion to approve the, Mr. Keeley's, appointment to the North Shore Water Resilience Task Force.
So moved.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I ask one quick question?
Absolutely. Let me just finish it.
Oh, go ahead, yeah, do your thing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. 500. Go ahead, Joe.
John, are you okay with this?
Oh, absolutely.
Want to get right on that? Like you do everything else for conservation in this
No,
town?
no, I'm very happy to be part of this.
Everything you've done in this town's been incredible, keeping us the way we are, so.
Thank you.
Want to make sure you want to get on board with this.
No, definitely.
All right.
Thank you.
Should have asked that before the vote.
Thanks.
Get out of wait, then lure you in. Just lure you in, like
Too
we
late, you
usually
just signed
do.
up for it. Okay, thank you, John. Next item on the agenda is 411, approval, town common Mama Bear effect. Just come up to the table and identify yourselves for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Jenna Lloyd with the Mama Bear Effect.
I'm Laura Sawyer-Messing with the Mama Bear Effect.
And we are looking to have our annual fundraiser again this year. We're having it on April 3rd, and we've rented out the Grandview Farm for the indoor activities. But we would like to set up an awareness walk along the common path in the common area on April 3rd. We would set up 24 by 36 inch lawn signs that would be educational for parents to stroll through along each lawn sign. We would also have the pinwheels that are known for the awareness. We would set that up, we would like to have the awareness from 12 to 4, and then everything would be removed at the end.
We'll start with Mr. Hogan.
Are you doing things at the Grandview and the Common?
Yes, so we're gonna have an event, family event. We're having Mad Science come for the kids. We're gonna have a couple activities as well, food. And then, so it will be mainly there, but it will give the families opportunities to walk around through the common as well, because we are also planting pinwheels at the police station and the fire station.
Have you talked to anybody about the transition of people from one to the other and back
Yes,
crossing?
yes, I know Adrian had reached out to Chief Brown, and he was on board for whatever we needed.
Mr. Priest?
Thank you. Obviously, I think this is a great event. Child abuse is a very serious topic that I don't think we talk enough about. And gaining prevention around that is incredibly important. For those of you who don't know, I actually sit on the board of directors for the Mama Bear Effect. So I will be abstaining from this vote, but I highly encourage everyone to support this event. And for anyone listening, please go. It's a very worthwhile cause and subject to be discussing.
And Laura actually did up some of the signs that we're gonna put out. She did some copies if you wanna see, just so that you can
They're
see what the wording
proposed,
is.
so you can kind of
Proposed, right.
get an idea of what the content is and the look.
All set, Nick?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Morandi?
Two quick questions, please. It says you'll be using a gazebo, right?
We are not planning to use the gazebo, mainly just the pathways that we would like to set
Okay,
up and
because it
around.
says, will the gazebo be used? It says yes.
We did put it there just in the event that if we decided to, but we're not planning to have anything
Rich.
up in and around there.
Okay, just because we're starting to do some things on there, and I just want to make sure that we could coordinate whether the paint, it'd be too early to paint that. We're looking at painting the gazebo and doing some landscaping around the outside of it. So
Okay,
just
no, I
wanted to
think
try
you'll
to-
be fine, because like I said, I think we just want to use the pathways, and then we will be handing out pinwheels. Once the walk is completed with people, then they can take a pinwheel to plant it in front of the police station.
The second question I had is that you said something about food. You have food there. So did you contact the Board of Health? Or do they
Oh,
have to-
at
or
the
do they have
Grandview?
to be contacted?
At Grandview, no, we'll have catering, or we'll
Oh,
have
the-
pizza.
it's
or
gotta be
something.
all at
The
the
food
Grandview.
will be at Grandview, yes.
I didn't know if it was gonna be on the common or not.
No, no.
Okay. Well, fantastic. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Runyon?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're all familiar with your group and your mission, but perhaps there's folks at home, maybe you just want to
Forgot we're on
briefly, briefly talk a little bit about the Mama Effect, your mission in town?
Yep. So the Mama Bear Effect is a nonprofit right here in Burlington, and we produce educational materials for the prevention of sexual child abuse. So our materials mainly help to educate and help spark the conversation with parents to teach their children about body safety and things like that.
Great, great, thank you. Yeah, I know it's a difficult subject to talk about, but,
Right.
yeah, so I'm glad you guys are involved with that. Thank you, all set.
Thank you. One quick thought you just brought to my mind. Have you ever reached out to the district attorney's office regarding this? Because they have resources and information material. That might be someone you might want to
Yep.
send this information to see if they want to participate, or not participate, but at least help out. I know they have advocates and all that stuff that are available, but I think it might be worthwhile at least.
I know Adrian has, I've just recently started in with the Mama Bear Effect. I've been a volunteer for them for a long time. I've started working part-time as their community relations person. I know Adrian's, yeah, but I will definitely bring it up to her.
Just shoot them an email just to see. The other thing too, what we got having the application here is 1 to 4, and you said 12 to 4. I just want to make sure.
So we were thinking, the 1 to 4 is open to the public at Grandview Farm. 12 to 4, we would like for the walkthrough, so that if people come early,
Right.
they have some activity
So
to
the
do.
approval
before.
would be from 12 noon
12
to
to
4, correct? Mr. Zagorino?
Is that what I put?
All right.
I also have these little cards with, just save the dates, and you can scan the code, and it puts everybody onto the website where it lists all what's happening that day.
Okay. Well, thank you, and it is a wonderful group that does a lot of good things in town, and we appreciate it as residents as well.
Mr. Chairman, may
yes.
I ask a very pointed question, Jenna?
Yes.
Is Burlington free of this scourge, or are there children in this town who need this service and need the attention they deserve?
Every town around the world needs this service. Because unfortunately, this is something that years and years go by before anything is disclosed with children. Because unfortunately, with this type of abuse on children, 80% of it is somebody you know and you trust your child with.
And how do you guys get involved in the process? Does somebody call you, or?
So our main goal is educating. I know Adrian and a lot of the people have been really working on a pediatrician packet. There's a parental pack that we have in place right now that we hand out and send out. A lot of communities will call and say, hey, can we get these parent packs? And they hand them out to the parents. And it's basically just educating the parent on, teaching your child about body safety, teaching them that, secrets aren't really a great thing, everybody should keep everything out in the open, don't go behind closed doors, stuff like that. It's not teaching your children about sex education, it's teaching them about protecting themselves, giving themselves a voice, so that if something does happen, they can come to you and say, hey, listen, this isn't right, this doesn't feel right.
And teaching parents things to look for and giving them tools and resources in the event that, God forbid, something like that happens.
And grandparents.
Right.
Correct.
Right,
Thank you both.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the Mama Bear Effect Town Common on April 3rd, 2022, from 12 noon to 4 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, you second it? All right, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, abstaining, you abstained, 4-0-1. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hope to see you there.
Yes.
Hey.
Okay, next item on the agenda is number 412, approval for Burlington Pride Celebration on the Town Common. Kerry, I believe, is out in, is it Kerry that's presenting on this? I believe you're out there in the WebEx?
WebEx? I don't see, anyone with that name, Mr. Chairman. All right, that's the one without the name.
Oh, no, she's with the housing group.
All right. Kerry Mo?
Kerry's on
Yeah, all right. Oh, all right. So, are we able to approve, we're able to approve this without any? Yes, if you feel like you have enough information. We have enough, we have the information in the backup. Does anybody have any questions or?
If
Yes,
Joe
come
could address, because on here, they've requested the gazebo. Did you want to address that here, Joe?
Well, there's nobody here to talk about it, so I don't know who would talk to them. But
All All right, maybe
know when the
the office can work
Yep.
with them regarding the issue on the gazebo?
Yep.
Because usually, the last time they did something up with this, they were on the gazebo and they were speaking, I believe. And, I don't know what's gonna be going on, if we're gonna be painting it or changing the wood structure or,
So you want us to check with Recreation just to
Check
make
with
sure
Recre,
that
yeah,
they're
that
not
would be
gonna be, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so there is an event every weekend in June, so it's probably not a great time for it not to be in use.
Okay.
All right. So if this is approved, we'll have the staff work with
Yeah.
Carrie on this.
And when this comes before us, Lynn, I'm sure that you guys have checked, there's nothing else going on.
No, she took a Sunday because there's so many events in June
Yeah.
already
Okay,
previously booked, yeah.
thank you.
Any further questions or comments, I should say? All right, nothing further. I'll be looking for a motion to approve the Burlington Pride Celebration event on the Town Common for June 5th, 2022, from 10:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Item 413, 413, VHS Post-Graduation Committee. I know you're back there. Come on up and identify yourself for the board.
Thank you. I'm Stephanie Marchese, and I am on the Burlington High Post-Grad Committee. And once again, we're hoping to have that party this year we're hoping to have it at King's. Last year, we couldn't do it at King's because of COVID. We ended up having it at Burlington High on the lawn, and it wasn't all night. But this year, we're just waiting approval from King's. I think they need to get approval, but to have it there overnight. It's Sunday. It's always the day of graduation, the first Sunday in June, which I think is June 5th. And it's overnight, so we always request that we have 2 police details there for the overnight, and you guys have always been kind enough to cover the cost of the police detail that night. I actually spoke with Officer Outerbridge today, and so we were thinking it would probably be like 9:30 p.m. until 5:30 a.m., just for when all the students are there. They're usually coming around 10, and then they leave by 5 a.m. So once again, we're requesting that this year from the selectmen.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Mr. Hogan?
No, this has always been a great event, and for us not to support it would be stupid.
Mr. Priest?
It's great to see it, coming back again. I
Yes.
know the kids had a great time last year, but I think that this event specifically is something that we're very much looking forward to. What time are the doors locked for the kids?
So the kids need to be in by 11 p.m. So we give them from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. to get in, and then they need to stay in until 5 a.m.
Okay.
Yep.
Great, yeah, absolutely in support.
Mr. Randy?
No.
Mr. Runyon?
No, sir, no questions.
Okay, and Stephanie, I have none. It's just the comment is, it is a great event for them to have, and it's good to see that it's back.
Yes, thank you.
Glad we're going back to normal.
Okay, that being said, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the cost of police details for our post-graduation on June 5th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you so much, thank you.
Item 414 is an update and discussion regarding the Bring Me to Burlington website. Alyssa?
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. My name is Melissa Tentopoulos, Economic Development Director. And this evening, kind of excited to share one of our initiatives that we launched last year, kind of end of spring last year, which is our Bring Me to Burlington website and social media campaign. So in your packet, you have a report. What we'd like to do is just I'd like to give you a little context of how we kind of launched into this as one of our main initiatives. And then online with us is Mike Sperling from Sperling Interactive, who's partnered with us to do the development and then share with you more insights from the analytics. So I'm just gonna pass this one pager down. That's a reminder, thanks. It's from the Mass Municipal Association. And so this is kind of the lead organizations for all the communities, cities, and towns in Massachusetts. And part of what they do is collect data and do analysis on best practices. And one of the key things that, their research found is that, in terms of increasing establishments within your community, as well as increasing, just number of jobs, bringing new jobs to your community, one key factor within a municipality's control is marketing, really increasing awareness. And so I think what that handout really says is just kind of gives you some context for the best practices where you can find that. It's through the Dukakis Center for Urban and Regional Policy at Northeastern University that had been kind of executing the study. And, in terms of the top things that we really want to focus on, it's been the marketing, the timeliness of approvals, and some of the parking conditions and what, kind of the place in the site analysis. But when we talk about our interventions and things that we have control over, pretty much hanging our shingle on the online kind of web is kind of how I think of it, and letting people know why Burlington's a great place to do business. So with that, in the spring, we put together a proposal for a website that's commercially focused. So we have our town website, and it's great content for our audience in terms of our residents and some of the practical permitting things that we need to get done. Maybe how to pay, a ticket, or how to, get things done in town. But when you're really trying to showcase our industries, showcase the workforce profile, and actual commercial sites that we have in town, we didn't really have any way to communicate that. So that is kind of where we launched this effort. So let me see if Mike Sperling's online. If you can hear me, maybe you can show your screen, Mike. Hi, Mike.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Great. All right.
So Mike will give a little presentation and walk you through a report, and then we'll take some questions from there.
Great. All right. You all can see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. I'm Mike Sperling. I'm the owner of Sperling Interactive. I've been working on the website and then kind of the ongoing marketing effort on the Bring Me to Burlington website. What I have here are statistics from July 1st, 2021 through yesterday when I finished this report up. So what I want to do is kind of share with you some kind of baseline numbers and kind of where we're headed, where we're having successes and where we're kind of still working. So since the website launched, we've had 13,999 sessions and 12,811 users come to the website. So in layman's terms, we've had 12,811 unique people, and the website has been visited 13,999 times. What we have here is, our average time on site's around 28 seconds at the moment. That's one thing we're looking to improve. And our bounce rate, which is people visiting one page and then leaving, is at 85.7%, which is also high and something that we're looking to improve. And I have kind of the why behind that at the end of the presentation and what we're going to be working on to kind of bring those numbers up. Right now, just to kind of give you some perspective on what we're doing, we're focused on a number of different things. So we're focused on search, so people coming from Google and Bing and the search engines. And right now, a good percentage, a little under half of those that have come to the website have come through paid search. So some people coming to Google and saying, I'm looking for office space, or I'm looking for a great place to open a company, and doing any sort of search and bringing them to the website. A little over a quarter of those people have come through what are called display ads. So these are ads that we've placed in other locations around the internet for people that have certain profiles that we're targeting in a kind of a tighter radius to Burlington, and showing them, our Bring Me to Burlington campaign and kind of things that Burlington has to offer. And I have some examples of that later in our presentation. Here's an idea, and I'll share this with the group after. Melissa can pass this along. When we first started, we had a lot more focus on paid search, and we've kind of gone off paid search a little bit since August of 2021 and kind of throttle that down a little bit. And we try to focus a little bit more on organic traffic as well. So you can see kind of month 1 and month 2, we had very little in the way of organic traffic. So people going to search engines and finding us naturally. And we've seen those numbers start to increase. And stop me if you have any questions. I know this is complex for some. This next slide here are the top pages people have visited on the website. So the homepage has been visited 9,312 times. The next page down here is our commercial page. So those that are starting to look for commercial property has been visited 2,000 times. We have a blog entry about bringing your business to Burlington that has been visited 1,881 times. People looking at our industries, restaurant retail page 925 times, and so on and so forth down. One of the things we've been focused on is improving the website for organic search. So this is being found naturally in Google or Bing or any of the search engines everyone uses in their modern lives, mainly Google and Bing. And you can see over time, we've had more clicks over to the website from an organic perspective and more impressions. Impressions being the purple line, clicks being the light blue line. So in our time, we've had we've come up in the search engine since July of last year, 106,000 times in the search results, which is pretty great for a new website just having launched. This slide here is about our Google paid search effort here. So our Google paid search effort, this is buying particular keywords. We have 4 different ad groups that are running. We have an ad group that relates specifically to office space, an ad group that relates to restaurant space, an ad group that relates to commercial space, and an ad group that relates to the best city for someone to open a business. So what we're doing is we're running a search campaign for people that are searching these sorts of keywords. These are just the ad groups, not the actual keywords. I have those here in a second. And those are driving people to the Bring Me to Burlington website. These ads have come up 93,885 times since we launched them and have led to 6,704 clicks. One of the key metrics that we look at for Google paid search is something called CTR, or click-through rate. It really talks about the relevancy of the ad. We're really looking for anything greater than 2 or 3% here, and we're at 7.1%. So 7 out of every 100 people that sees an ad is actually clicking on our ad because what they searched seems to be relevant with what we're presenting as far as our advertising copy. Our average cost per click on these ads is $1.48, which is relatively low for paid search. We're running everywhere from 50 cents a click all the way up to $100 a click with some of our clients. Just to give you a sense of some of the ads here, we have ads again that deal with actual kind of talent, ads that deal with commercial space, and ads that deal with people that may be starting a business. These are some of the keywords that we're targeting and kind of the success we've had here. So the number 1 keyword that people have kind of clicked on is commercial office space for rent. Number 2, office space for lease, restaurant space for rent near me. So as you can see, kind of the catalyst for people coming to the website is actually searching actual physical space. And you'll see kind of what we're doing to kind of work with that here in a minute. The next piece here is our Google display ads. So what display ads are, these are actual physical banner ads that appear on other websites. And I have some of the locations here in a second that they've appeared. But essentially, we're targeting a specific group of people. And we're aiming at 2 things. We're aiming at awareness and we're aiming at remarketing. So awareness, we are targeting people of, in certain demographics who have kind of certain expertise or are doing specific searches. And then the second here, remarketing. What remarketing is after someone's been to the Bring Me to Burlington website, we're delivering them what's called a cookie. And that cookie then makes it so as they go other places on the internet, our ad follows them around. So, we get other opportunities to speak with them even after they've been to our website. I'm sure you all have seen this. You're shopping for a pair of shoes or furniture or a hotel, and it seems like that thing follows you everywhere on the internet. That's remarketing, and that's what we're doing. So our ads have come up 2.3 million times. The real advantage of Google Display is from a branding perspective and making sure people understand who you are. So to show up, 2.3 million times, again, in this kind of short period of time, really great. And we've had 4,346 clicks on those ads back to the website. Here we have a click-through rate of 0.2%. This is more in the average range. What we're generally seeing for display is a 0.1 to 0.25% click-through rate. So we're right in that kind of average, right where we want to be. These are some of the ads here that we're running. So you can see we're highlighting kind of different pieces here. And these are some of the places we've shown up. So the Huffington Post, CNN, the New York Times. But again, all of this is radius targeted, right? So we're only someone may be on the New York Times, but they may be in the general Boston area looking at that. We're not targeting people in California, right, or New York or these sorts of places. We are keeping it to a fairly tight radius at this point. This is some examples of social content. So in addition to the search that we're doing, we are focused on social. So these are just some examples of some things that we're putting out there. We're putting quotes. We're welcoming new companies to the area as they come in and creating some goodwill there. Profiling existing businesses, giving some interesting statistics. We had a sponsored ad for the community forum that you were having about Mall Road, the Mall Road project. So, these sorts of things. So putting content out and letting people kind of discover that content both organically and also boosting some of that content. So putting very short money behind the content and making sure others outside of those that are part of our community, that are more in the Boston community are seeing this. And then the last slide here is kind of where we're headed, right? So on the campaign adjustments. So we recognize that the bounce rates need to be brought down to at least 70%. Those are at 85% currently. Again, bounces people coming to one page and then leaving. And then we also recognize that we need to improve the time on site, right? Again, average session time there, about 35 seconds at this moment. We need to get that up over a minute. So there's a couple things we're looking at doing, or three things we're looking at doing. One thing that was originally proposed with the site that we're now getting to, just because we didn't have the content before, is we are putting a listing of all the commercial properties on the site. So if you all remember a few slides back when we were looking at the different keywords that people were searching, people are really looking for specific office spaces. So we have a searchable database that's going to end up on the website to allow people to go in and say, I need a commercial space zoned in this way that's 5,000 to 10,000 square feet. And they'll be able to see in our inventory what we have available to kind of start those conversations. By doing that, we're delivering more of what people are kind of looking for instead of kind of the broad stroke that we're kind of giving them now. And what that should do is that should keep people on the site longer. It's going to reduce our bounce rate. It's going to increase our session time. It will improve our search engine optimization. And we're going to send those ads for people that are searching for commercial property right to that commercial property database, because that's what they're looking for. Let's help them find exactly what it is that they're looking for. Another thing we're looking to do is add some more video to the website. So we would like to produce some videos. We have pitched that as part of a MOT grant that we should, Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism grant, that has a March announcement on it. So we should be able to see if we are able to do that with Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism funds. And by having video on the site, that's going to, again, keep people on the site longer. And then the third thing we're looking to do to, again, improve the set time on site and the bounce rate is deeper listing clicks. So right now, when you go to the hotel page or the restaurants page, it really is a whole list of just, restaurants or hotels, and there's not a deeper link. We would like to have a deeper link there. So when I click on a specific hotel, I go to a page about that hotel and they'll bring me to Burlington site before I leave the site and go to that person's website. Versus the way it is now, you end up on that page and you land on that page and you leave right away from that page to that hotel's website or that restaurant's website. Again, improve the bounce rate, improve the session time. This is also part of the MOT grant, and it will also improve search engine optimization. So that's kind of what I prepared for now, and I'm open to any questions, or Melissa can continue.
Thank you. Was there any follow-up to that?
Yeah, I just probably kind of give you a little bit more context on maybe the MOT grant and kind of the value that we've heard that the website kind of brings to, at least at this point for sure, our hotel industry, because I think one thing we don't think of ourselves maybe as a tourist destination, but we do have 8 hotels in town. Obviously, you guys know that we have our revenue that comes from rooms. attacks. But I think, we are a great landing point, not only for business travelers, but there is leisure travelers that go into, Concord, Boston, Lexington. And so in these communications that we've held some kind of small industry sector meetings with the hotels in town. And they have said that, one thing that they feel is most valuable is to continue to enhance the work we've done with the website, because that not only highlights, Burlington as a destination, it offers one place to give whether it's things to do or other, kind of benefits of the area, kind of the geographic kind of locational advantages that we have in Burlington. And so with that information and that kind of intel from the hotels, we worked with the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism and submitted a grant to do just that, to make it deeper, like Mike said, to make it more interactive. And hopefully, in March, this coming month, that we'll hear from Mott and whether we got, some additional funding for that type of work. And I think also we've heard a lot from the commercial broker kind of community in that, putting this kind of resource together to have them tap into, showing potential businesses who are looking, maybe they're already here looking to expand, or, coming in to get an understanding of who's already here, that the website's been really good for that as well. So that's just some additional context. And yeah, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Melissa. Michael, I'll start with you on this end.
Oh, thank you, Jim. Actually, Mike mentioned cookies there and shopping for shoes and so on and so forth. I know at Christmas time when I'm shopping for Christmas gifts, my wife on her iPad pops up certain nights that I've been looking at, takes kind of the surprise out of Christmas
Well, you're
shopping
looking
at
for
my
stuff for
house.
yourself,
But anyhow, I was glad to see, Mike, you sort of ended your report talking about how we're actually providing tangible information now to folks who are looking for specific commercial space or restaurant space or other information. We actually have now beginning to provide that information for them, and I think that's absolutely terrific, and I agree. I think it's going to keep them on our page a little bit longer, but this has really been an effort. Nick and I have been pretty involved rather deeply with this whole thing, and we realized early on that I think getting a website for Burlington to address our commercial sector was a real priority, and we are now seeing the fruits of that labor. So congratulations to everybody involved. Yeah, I'm very pleased with the website, other than that floating bee that's on that page. I just don't care for that. I find it very distracting.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Mr. Morandi.
No, it was a great presentation, good job. I do have one quick question. On the second page where it says overall search metrics, it says $990.02 dollar-wise. What does that mean? Am I lost someplace here? I'm trying to figure out what that actually means. Could be the second page? No, I'm sorry.
Mike, it might be the one that I had given them.
Under the budget.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, yeah.
Dated like his.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, hold on, sorry, let me see if I can't find that particular version.
His deck was slightly different than what we have.
It's true. So Mike, the one you presented online is slightly different. I gave them, I think, the January report.
The monthly budget, we're at the Google.
Yeah, hold on one second, I can find that.
I don't have that.
Understand it, that's all I'm asking. I didn't understand what it was.
Okay.
Okay, so you mean page 2, the monthly budgets, yes?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is just the allocation that we have, right? So if you remember, there were kind of 3 pieces of the puzzle that we're kind of paying for here. One is Google search, right? So people actually going to Google and saying, commercial office space in the greater Boston area, right? We're handing Google, in this case, $990.02 in January. The second part, Google Display, those are those display ads we were talking about that are on, I think we saw in Huffington Post, New York Times, like those sorts of things, again, for kind of local people. So we handed $149.22 to Google for that. And then the last piece here, Google Remarketing, these are those ads that follow you around. Again, kind of those similar positions. We handed Google $99.61 on that in January.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Brief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first, let me just say that, as Mr. Runyon said, you know, we are huge proponents.
Of this, and I think that all the work that's being done is absolutely fantastic. Mike, it's good to see you. I feel like it's been like forever since we last spoke. And knowing that this is a new website, taking all of it about to say with a grain of salt. 85% bounce rate with a 39-second, stay time with our number one site page being the homepage is bad. And I know you know that. So, I think that obviously, the listings notion, which I have a question on, the video production and the deeper listing clicks will all help. I'd love to see and I also saw in our report, there were a lot of dead keywords that I think that we can probably sponge, that we're receiving absolutely no action on them whatsoever. But if we can find ways to drive people just, either deeper into the site or, elevate the pages where it's not the primary, go-to right now, but if, the industry sector pages or the tourism pages are our 3, 4, 5 spots, how do we make them our 1, 2, 3 spots, right? How can we take the current engagement and drive it higher through deeper clicks, as you were saying, Mike? Go ahead.
And so, I think we've known, right? People were looking for office space for a while. And I think, Melissa has a new resource in her office to help get to kind of that point where we can now do what was kind of originally intended, which is to drive people into this office space, right? What we suspected, we see in the report, right? We know when people are coming to our site, they're generally searching for office space. And our feeling is that they're going and they're getting frustrated because what they're looking for, right, is not there, right? So by doing that, I think we're going to see a drastic drop in bounce rate and a drastic increase in time on site if we can get, right, enough inventory on the site, right? Sure. And there's kind of different ways to do that. I think we're headed toward the manual route right now. There are kind of automated feeds that exist out there as well that we've kind of also explored, but those come with a cost, right? And so the manual way is free. So we're starting there, and if we find that we can at least start to marginally kind of bring down the bounce rate and bring up the time on site, then maybe we'll see the success and we can say, all right, we're doing it, we're moving in the right direction. Can we now look at absorbing the cost of one of these automated feeds? So at our fingertips, instantly we'll have everything that is on the essentially commercial MLS.
Great. Also too, consider, given the amount of traction on the homepage, if a temporary violator would be helpful, to drive people deeper into the site, that's specific around that listing. Wherever we can suck up engagement, I want to capture that.
Yeah, and on the homepage, it was also, we have a block that's hidden currently that has all of those commercial properties on it. So you come in, and one of the first things that you're seeing are, here are some commercial properties that are available, view more. So we're, again, speaking to that kind of want and need of those that are doing the searching.
Okay, awesome. Again, I'm a huge proponent of this, so I'm speaking criticism of love, not hate. Absolutely, and I, again, I'll, from the mountaintops, bring me the Burlington needs to be trademarked. It is just absolutely fantastic. The whole Boston's best neighbor thing, I think is from a marketing standpoint, just huge for us as we look at our, overall economic growth. And then I think, Mike, you answered my next question. So Melissa, the listing input will be manual?
Yeah, currently we're working with our local brokers for existing space. So the other alternative is working with CoStar, which is kind of the MLS of commercial space in a lot of ways. And that's a subscription based, and it also comes with a lot of analytics. So the cost is very high for that. So we've looked at a couple different options, and we've actually kind of looked at what some other communities are doing. And I think we'll have success getting off the ground with our initial push with our existing brokers and property owners. And I think once we have that, we can demonstrate it, versus right now it's a little hidden and we're just like, oh, we're asking for it, but I think we'll be able to prove that it's a benefit. So
that's great. I just want to make sure that from a resourcing perspective that you feel comfortable. What I don't want to do is burden from a resourcing perspective and then have it fall on its face. If it's an issue that we can get behind and stand up, then we're 100% behind it.
At this point, yes.
Okay. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Appreciate talking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Melissa, I think the term that we've always used, because we're Burlington, that we have a good solid base in which to build not only the site that you guys are working on, but it adds to it. And when I look at the things that have happened since we brought you on board a couple of years ago, the new corporate residents that we have, to add to that listing. So when someone says, well, who's there? Why should I care? We've got an exciting list of new family members on the corporate side to add to that. So I think this and that and you and everybody who's part of this makes this all work better because we are Burlington.
Thank you, Bob. I mean, I know tonight you'll hear from some of the smaller new business owners in town. And, you know, we are working to better capture them and develop more of a welcoming, you know, program for them from large to small. So, and we, you know, really see this as a vehicle as it develops to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. I have just a couple of quick questions. One is, how can you determine someone's age, a user's age? It says,
Yeah, I mean, it's the creepy world that we live in, the information that we're sharing kind of on the internet. So we don't know everyone's age, right? You have to open it up to Google. I didn't look at the particular report you're looking at, but generally we'll see between 25 and 50%, maybe even 60% of users' ages. And it's just what you're allowing Google to share, right? If you, in your settings with Google and you're logged into Google, they know everything about you. So.
all right. So if someone puts improper information in on Google, it's going to show up with that improper information.
Yes.
Okay. Second question. It's a work in progress, and you said there's going to be a lot of refinements along the way. How long do you think it's going to take for us to get to where we want to be? In other words, are we talking months, a year?
I mean, I think we're talking months. I mean, I really feel strongly about getting these kind of listings up there. Assuming we can get those listings up there and kind of change the kind of search strategy to more of a homepage strategy to kind of getting people to those actual listings they want to see, right? Let's give it 2 or 3 months once we get the listings up there to see kind of, has that brought down the bounce rate? What has that meant for it? But I feel strongly that it's going to work based on, again, the searches that we've seen.
Thank you, Mike. Now, Melissa, this question's for you. When do you think it will be appropriate time for the next update on this?
I would probably say in another, 8 to 12 months. I think that would be fair, unless, you prefer it to be earlier.
All right, no, I'm going to go with your expertise.
I mean, it gives us, we want to have at least 1 year under our belt and then give it some time. I mean, we have regular reports that come in on a monthly basis that Mike and I review on a monthly basis. So at any point in time, we can review it. But in terms of, making some additional, analysis on how it's doing from day one, from back in July, it'd be good to at least get, the 12-month mark and then maybe another,
So would you suggest probably around the same time next year? Only because I want to we have different seasons in Burlington, like the shopping season and stuff, and just to make sure you capture all the data you think you need to capture.
Yeah, I would say before next year. I would say maybe in, kind of the winter 2022 then, if we want to kind of do a check-in before.
Okay.
One thing I would add to that is, one way we like to look at the data is we like to look at January of this year compared to January of last year. It's a healthier way to look at data instead of kind of how do we do last month versus this month, because seasons change and, like you said, shopping patterns change and the way consumers behave change. So I think that would be, at least having some of that data would be healthy so we can start to make those comparisons.
Thank you. Anything further? Mr. Sagredo, any comment or no? I have nothing further. All right, well, thank you both for that very informative presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Melissa.
Okay.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 4:15. It's an update from the Burlington Housing Partnership Committee. Mr. Runyon, you're here, obviously present, and then Eileen and Kerry are out there. Who's gonna?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, let me just give a brief summary and then I'll turn it over to Kerry and Eileen. You guys all know, you've been hearing bits and pieces about what the group's been doing for the last year and a half or so. We felt we were, the time that we come in and sort of tidy all that up for you and Kevin prepared a small, 6 or 7 slide presentation to give you a better idea of what we've been doing over the past several months, what we'd like to do in the future, and what's we're currently undertaking right now in the area of addressing affordable housing. I have to say, I'm really proud of this group. They bring a lot, we have a lot of new faces. They bring a lot of experience and enthusiasm and really a commitment to address affordable housing here in Burlington. So if you would allow them a few minutes to make their presentation, I'll turn it over to Kerry Donahue and Eileen Sickler.
Very good. Kerry, it's, floor is yours.
Great, thanks. Can you guys see my slides?
Yes.
Great. Thanks, Mike. As I said, I'm Carrie Donahue. I'm the vice chair of the Housing Partnership Committee, and it's actually really appropriate that you're having us speak after the Bring Me to Burlington presentation, because I think trying to bring more businesses to Burlington goes really hand in hand with housing. If you want more businesses, you need to think about where you're going to house those workers. Certainly those companies are thinking about that. So I'm excited about that. So I'm actually going to hand it over to my fellow committee member, Eileen Sickler, and she's going to give you an overview, just a quick overview of what the committee's accomplished in like the last year or so.
Thank you, Kerry. Eileen?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm Eileen Sickler, the Secretary of the Housing Partnership Committee. And just to go over a few things that we've been doing over the last year. The first one, as you can see, is the financial activity. We reviewed the activity from the year 2005, and with the help of John Denuzio, our town accountant, and Dan McCormick, our town archivist, we were able to piece together most of the activity in the account. In a snapshot, we've received approximately 1.3 million in receipts. We've spent about 500,000, leaving us a cash balance right now of about 800,000. Discussion with town employees. John Denuzio has been very helpful in explaining and determining some of the accounting entries. I talked with Jean Gallant, who is one of 3 people assigned to housing-related activities. I also talked with Liz Rust, our external consultant. She explained what she did for the town, and actually she also made suggestions regarding the affordable housing coordinator role. The 117 South Bedford Lottery. The town paid for major renovations for the property, and we were able to sell it for just under 300,000. There weren't as many applicants as we expected, although the outreach wasn't as broad as it could have been. We're in the process now of aggregating contact information for those applicants in and out of Burlington who were applicants in prior lotteries. This should broaden our outreach for future lottery applicants. The good news is that the lottery winner was able to buy this nearly new home that otherwise would not have been possible. 30,000 from town meeting. In September 2021, town meeting approved a $30,000 transfer from the existing funds in the town's affordable housing fund to the general fund to pay for a housing needs assessment report that Carrie will describe in a few minutes. This is the first time the town has had a housing needs assessment study, and we're looking forward to the results over the next few months. Working with St. Veronica's. We met with a representative from St. Veronica's Parish who explained they're working with the Catholic Charities to find a permanent home for 1 Afghan refugee or 1 Afghan family here in Burlington. We have sent flyers and emails to various rental property managers, religious organizations, and other charities in the hopes of finding permanent housing. A master list. As a result of digging for information, we learned there is no master list of all the properties in town that are subsidized or deemed affordable. Selectman Ryan has talked with the administration, planning department staff, and the assessor's office to compile a complete and accurate listing. With that said, I sat with Liz Bonventry this afternoon, and we're working on getting a clear, accurate, and comprehensive listing of all the subsidized housing inventory, as well as the affordable housing stock in town. Let's see. Grandview. Yes, Grandview. So included in our responsibilities for affordable housing in town is ensuring that proposals, agreements, deeds and are well documented and in compliance with state and federal guidelines. It also gives us a chance to take a fresh look at outdated practices or policies that need to be updated. Our understanding is that the Grandview documents have been with the town's legal counsel for several months. And I know everyone's very busy, but it would be helpful to have a date certain when these documents and conclusions can be shared with us. Our ask today of the board is to help us be proactive and let us know when these documents will be available. And finally, I'm going to talk about the Affordable Housing Coordinator. But before I do, are there any questions on these other items?
Mr. Randy?
No.
Nick?
No.
Bob?
Eileen, one quick question relative to Grandview. Are you expecting to change the criteria that people use to make themselves available to Grandview?
Well, I'll tell you something, Bob. It's one of those things where we don't know what we don't know because we haven't seen any of the documents. I don't know how to answer that question, I guess.
Okay, well, we can come back to that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Eileen.
Okay, so lastly, the Affordable Housing Coordinator. As we're aware, Burlington has changed a lot in the last 20 years when a dedicated affordable housing coordinator wasn't as critical as today. With that growth comes complexity and a clear need for a dedicated one point of contact resource. This contrasts with the current situation where several people touch some aspects of affordable housing. We're looking for someone who can do the daily activities as well as coordinate meetings and projects among other departments, maintain the master list of the town's housing stock, implement and manage affordable programs, keep the website fresh and updated, work with state and federal agencies for any reporting and compliance, as well as keeping abreast of new state or federal programs, guidelines, and grants. We see this role as tactical and not meant to replace our current consultant, Liz Rust, who will continue to do the more strategic and high-level work. We are asking for up to $20,000 a year for this part-time consultant. We believe this would be paid from the town's Affordable Housing Fund, and this is consistent with the funding source and monies paid over the last 15 years. Having a dedicated one point of contact resource who understands housing and who can answer questions about any aspect of the town's affordable housing policies and programs is money well spent, particularly as the housing issues in town are more pressing and more relevant. And with that, I'll hand that over to Carrie.
Great, thanks, Eileen. I think, as a lot of you know, we're working with MAPC, the state's regional planning agency, on this project, a housing needs assessment. And what we're trying to do is just get a full understanding of what's going on with housing in Burlington, what we have, what we don't have, what we need, where there's gaps, who's being served and who isn't. So I want to give you a brief overview of where we are and what's still to come. So we've finished phase 1 of the project, which was MAPC using census and other data sources to give us a comprehensive understanding of Burlington housing in terms of hard numbers. I'm not going to dig into them, but there are some truly jaw-dropping numbers in the findings. Home prices in our town have risen 82% in the last decade. The perception that people have that Burlington has become unaffordable to median income residents is accurate. It has. At the same time, rents have risen 46% in Burlington. To be a renter in Burlington, you need to make about $96,000 for it to be affordable, which is staggering. And we're not building the kinds of small housing that could be affordable to first-time buyers, to downsizing seniors. Burlington's permitted only 2 duplexes since 1980. We are continuing to build large, expensive homes and high-end, expensive apartments, and we are leaving out a huge swath of people in the middle. And as I said, for businesses that are coming here, that's going to be important. People need somewhere to live if they're not making $96,000 a year. So the next phase of the project kicks off this week, actually. MAPC is hosting focus groups with residents to hear people's housing stories firsthand. It's just a way to give faces and context and personal experience to these numbers. We have a great diverse group of people who are going to come be part of the focus groups, and we're really excited to hear what they have to say and tell us what their experience has been. We're also putting the finishing touches on a digital survey that people who either can't or don't want to attend the focus groups can fill out and share their experience. And then we'll also be holding a town-wide meeting in the spring. By the summer, we hope to have the final report from MAPC, and we will definitely be back in front of you to share the complete findings. and to discuss what our options are and what kind of things we can do next, like forming a municipal affordable housing trust or other possibilities that could create a more equitable path forward for Burlington's housing. I have one other item I think we're going to talk about, but any questions on the needs assessment?
Joe? Nick? No, none yet.
Okay. It'll be, I know you'll be very interested when you get the full findings. We got a draft and our draws just dropped. So the last item we wanted to talk to you today was basically bringing the need to revise the charter for our committee, the Housing Partnership Committee. The committee itself has been an ad hoc committee in some form or another for about 35 years, believe it or not, and has had varying sort of periods of being active and inactive, but it has not been a standing committee. And it has, however, over the past 2 years, been very active. We meet monthly, sometimes more often, and certainly a lot more often now that we're working on the needs assessment. So to best serve the town, we feel it's really past time to formalize and transition this committee from an ad hoc to a standing committee with a charter that defines its organization, its responsibilities, and its objectives, and includes membership guidelines to ensure that we have active, engaged committee members who also reflect the town demographics. So for instance, right now, our committee has no renters on it, which I think is a real shortcoming. So we want to be proactive in creating a charter that will address those sorts of things. So we're working on a draft charter right now for the committee that we plan to present to town meeting this fall. And I hope when we get to that point, we'll have your support in making this transition and making it a standing committee. And that's the end of it, I think. Any questions?
No, thank you, Eileen, thank you. Oh, hold on, I'm sorry. Mr. Hogan, any questions?
No, I'm
Nick?
good. I'm looking forward to seeing the housing needs assessment for sure, but no questions this time. I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eileen, and Mike, if you don't have questions, I'm gonna have you.
I don't have
fill this.
any questions, but I hope you guys, I just wanted you all to be sort of up to speed what we're doing. And I think their presentation was very good. I know we're in knocking on Park quite often, very aware. So I think we're finally in agreement that perhaps a 10 to 20 hour position is actually justifiable. The three women that had been sharing those duties are all since retired. So I think it's time to get all of our ducks in a row so that we can responsibly react to questions from people who inquire about affordable housing opportunities here.
Thank you. I just want to say, I think this has been an amazing presentation, in my opinion. The way the activity of this group over the last, like you said, 2 years, the work that you showed us tonight, it's truly amazing. I mean, you've really revitalized this whole, I don't want to say committee, but I agree 100% that there's a need for it, that it should be a standing committee. It was, again, that's not for me to decide, but I just think the information, the work the whole group has put into this and the results we're seeing tonight is just the tip of the iceberg, but I think that's just an amazing job by all. So you'll have my support on this.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so this is just an update. Okay. Zachary, you had nothing for this, right?
I just want to add, I'm in full support of the work of the partnership, and I do believe that now is the time where we need to putting some resources towards, staffing this function of the town properly. So I'm in full support of that as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Eileen. And Kerry.
Thanks. Thank you.
And Mike, of course, thank you.
Good
Okay,
night.
item 416 is an update on the DEI committee. Mr. Priest, I'll turn to you for an intro to this agenda item.
Thanks, Chairman. As Barbara comes up here, we can, I'll quickly just say that the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee has been working very hard over the last several months. And this is one of a couple quarterly reports that the committee would like to bring forward to the select board in an effort to hopefully take action throughout the year, knowing that this is an ad hoc committee. But I also want to recognize the rest of our committee is actually also here via the web. Actually, Carl Foss from the school committee, Nancy Bonacera, and Saidi Ghani, who are the other members and have been working as hard as Barbara and myself to see this through. I know that you all received the information within your packet, but I'm going to turn it over to Barbara, our chair, to review the first 2 pages, our presentation to you.
Thank you.
Barbara, welcome.
Thank you.
Barbara?
My name is Dr. Barbara Jean Addison Reed, and my family, friends, and colleagues call me BJ. So please use that name. We'll look at the presentation that we have for you, and at the top, we begin with the process that we are utilizing to examine the information. First is philosophy, second, goal, third, decision, fourth, action steps, fifth, results, and last is self-appraisal. And if you look down the left-hand column, you'll see that we introduce each of those steps. For philosophy, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee believes that all people who share this planet are diverse, equal, and deserving of inclusion. We want to strive toward a community where education, healthcare, housing, jobs and careers, voting, and security from government, military, and the police are equitable and inclusive for all. Given this philosophy, the Diversity Committee begins in diversity, equity, and inclusion for all people who reside in the town of Burlington, Massachusetts. The goal of the committee is to research and implement the strategy to achieve diversity, equity, and inclusion for every person who resides, is educated, and works in this community. We then begin to list decisions that need to be examined. And the reason we are listing them here is that if there's an opportunity to consider, you may want to discuss and then make a decision about whether to approve or not. The first decision is to create a philosophy statement for all people who reside in Burlington. Second, decide on the definition of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which are listed as diversity is to define the variety, assortment, multiplicity, mixture of all ethnic races. Equity is defined as fairness, impartiality, justice, and fair play for all people who reside in the town of Burlington. For education, healthcare, housing, jobs and careers, voting, police security, and protection. The third is to amend the select board mission statement to include diversity, equity, and inclusion as the responsibility for everyone who resides in the town of Burlington. And finally, to lead union contract negotiations to include language that addresses discrimination on the basis of race in 3 of the contracts, and diversity, equity, and inclusion is included in all union contracts effective 1st of July, 2022. The first action step that we list are to gather data, analyze, and present the quarterly report. You have a second document that was given to you, and it is a 14-page document that looks at the 21 documents that we gathered from the town clerk and for the Director of Human Resources to look at the policies and procedures that are in practice that govern our policies and how employees and residents are treated here. That document is there if you wish to look at some of the statistics. For example, on page 6, it looks at some of the data that is available, and it compares the town of Burlington by race with Boston, with the United States, and with the United States of America. So if you're comparing how is Burlington doing, you may want to look at those statistics as well. If you skip over to page 14 of this presentation, we're looking at the census data that was available in 2010 and the census data that became available to 2020 as of October 2021. And you'll see that there's some growth, but if you're looking overall, the statistics have changed a little by percent, but the dimensions have not changed. In other words, for African Americans, In Burlington, it's 1.4%, 2010. And in 2020, 4.5%. And so there's some growth with very little for what we need. Going back to looking at the presentation, a second step is for the select board to request that Burlington executives engage with the DEI committee to change policy, procedure, and practice for every person who resides in the town. Action steps on page 3 looks at the select board adopts the annual Town of Burlington Diversity Scorecard. And in preparation to consider that, we have shared with the select board a document that I prepared May 12th, 2015, to look at a university diversity scorecard. And here are the dynamics that we have available to look at. How do we want to measure what Burlington's doing year after year when it comes to residents, when it comes to what we're doing for education? There are massive things that we can discuss here. Continuing with the presentation, after the third step, then we begin to look at the results and annually to produce the diversity scorecard for Burlington. When you look at the document that I gave you, this one begins to show what happened at the university in 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So over those years, you're producing the document where you can compare and see where there's growth or where we have the proper leadership to achieve the results that we're looking for, or where the leadership does not succeed. And we have to address that as an organization as well. The last document that I want to mention is that we have listed self-appraisal. I have worked with managers in higher education for a number of years, and typically when you work for an upline manager, they are responsible for evaluating your performance in the past year. Memory for people who manage is about 2 months long, so they can tell you what you did recently, but they've not looked at your performance for the last 12 months. And we think, in fairness to the people that we manage, it's real important to engage them in that process. And so when we talk about self-appraisal, we're looking at the goals that we started out to achieve on an annual basis. And for every person who is employed by Burlington, they're charged with the responsibility to achieve their goals and the results, and then to do their own performance, which they prepare and give in a written document to their upline manager. So the manager can then evaluate their performance along with what the manager sees them to have achieved. So it's both people that play into that product. It means that we're energized and we're focused on achieving on an annual basis. Once that achievement is completed and discussed with the employee, then it is encouraged that the manager sends both the employee's self-appraisal and the manager's evaluation to human resources so that they are retained in the employee's personnel file that's kept there. And at the end of this presentation, we list the names of the people who are working with us on this committee, and it's Dr. Nancy Becerra, Mr. Syed Khani, Mr. Carl Foss, Mr. Nicholas Nick Priest, and me. Thank you very much. I'll entertain any questions you might have, any discussions. If you want to go back and look at the decisions that need to be made, I'm open to do that.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, if I could jump in.
Absolutely, Nick.
Thank you.
I think it's
important to note.
That this committee's done a lot of foundational work, right? That, this first quarter was, digging into data, seeing where we are as both a community and as a municipality. And it was really interesting to see, as, Barbara kind of touched upon, that, our employee diversity has changed, roughly 1%, from 4.8% to 5.7%. And, as a town, we've gone from 13.2% in 2010 to 28.5%, diverse population in 2020. And so when we see this organic growth, you know, this committee's job is to help and support that, right? And, you know, in terms of Q2, some of the things that we're definitely working towards, and again, as Barbara said, you know, we've got the scorecard that we're looking at, the mission statement, you know, efforts with the schools, right? We have Ray Porch over at the schools as the diversity director. You know, these are all things that we want to be, you know, broaching in Q2. That's all I wanted to say, so thank you.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge Mr. Porch is out here in the WebEx with us. Mr. Hogan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What's the timetable that you see for this accumulation of information and education and activity?
The time frame can be looking at the data annually. For example, you have contracts that are being negotiated now. This is the opportunity to see that we're addressing a description of what it means to discriminate, which is missing from 3 contracts, and to include language around diversity, equity, inclusion. Again, our philosophy is that people are all here. We are all active, engaged in this community, and we want to be treated fairly, to accept the difference in our skin color, to accept who we are, to accept our opportunity to work with committees, to serve in this community, and to support our neighbors. If you want to look annually, you want to look at the statistics and how it changes. You want to look at the leadership that is being demonstrated by the people who run the organizations here in town to see how they are moving this issue forward.
Okay, I'm sorry, Barbara, let me jump in. I don't mean, you know, annually what we do in the future.
Yes.
But at what point are we going to be up to speed from the starting line? When will we be able to then start doing them annually? I mean, I read through a lot of this stuff, and it's mind-boggling to think that we can just change. It's going to be a process, and it's going to take a lot of time for people to start gathering all of the stuff that you've given us. And quite frankly, I think there's a lot easier way of saying some of the things you've said here and make it easier. I looked up a few words that you used. Now, I'm a smart guy. I've got a bachelor's degree. But I looked the words up, and it didn't make sense in some of them, like enclosure. I looked at the definitions, and I didn't know how to plug it back in to all of the stuff that you've given us. I think we need to get back to English, just using basic English, and not try to impress everybody with how smart we all are. And then just go from there. Because, you know, you use a lot of words, but what we want to say is anybody who lives, works, and visits here needs to be protected from everybody, for everybody, by the people who live, work, and visit here. We don't have to get convoluted and, you know, hoity-toity. Just say what we want. And we have to take care of people and make sure everybody's treated properly. I think we can cut down on this and then have a starting point in the future where we start gathering and collecting all this once everybody's ramped up on the education of what we're talking about. I know that every community in this country and in the free world has issues, but I don't think everybody needs to be talked down to. I think we need to just all talk to each other about all of this. So I would say we got a lot of work to do.
We do have a lot of work to do. If you turn to the 14-page report on page 6, it gives the definition of race. And what we have listed here are the races that come from the federal government. And that's how you do the calculations to look at where you are. For African American, Asian American, that's where we've seen growth here in Burlington. And we want to support that.
And yes, we do. But I'm just saying, there's an awful lot here. There's more stuff here than there is in a lot of reports that I've seen in the 12 years I've sat on this board. And I'm just saying, we need to ramp up at a pace that we can all live with and exist with and learn from. I mean, you said you want the union contracts to be ready by July 1st. Is that realistic?
Yes, if we have conversation with whoever the chief negotiator is for the contract.
That's easy to say, but there's a lot of stuff going on around everybody in town doing stuff. This is one more thing that we want everybody to do, but we want it to be done correctly. We can't just drop everything and now focus on this one thing. So all I'm saying is, the basic concept is good. What we want to do is excellent. I'm just saying that the report that I have here isn't going to be read by everybody because their eyes are going to glaze over. Not all of us are PhDs dealing in education. We're the people with the boots on the ground trying to make things work by keeping the buses and trains working correctly and on time, whoever said that.
Yes. I'm coming to you with 45 years of work experience here in the Boston area. And the 45 years I spent as the executive for human resources and diversity work for 45 years. That's also how long I've lived here in Burlington. So I'm bringing forth what I've been able to accomplish working for higher education at Harvard, Tufts, Bentley, and Lesley University. I also worked 9 years for ADP, Automatic Data Processing. So I understand for-profit and nonprofit organizations. We have to decide what it is we want to measure here. We can look at the report that I gave you from the university to examine how the data is looked at. We also need to look at policies and procedures and how that's being put together. When we request that you sponsor us for meeting the executives in town who are working on this project, I'm willing to do that, to share conversation with them, to help bring focus to how each of those executives may want to institute in how they are managing their organization.
And what I would hope is, what we get out of this is that we need to compartmentalize the things we need to learn and the things we need to do. And I think we need to have a schedule of what those things are and what the expectations are, so that we can focus on something without having to juggle all of these other things at the same time. If we're going to do this, we need to do it right and do it patiently, with the expectation that while we're doing it, everyone is still treated with the love and the respect and the kindness that they deserve.
So perhaps the best strategy is to agree that committee needs to meet with the with the executive leaders here in town and together decide what is going to be their approach.
When you say the executive leaders in town, who are you referring to?
I would like to be able to share with you a substance that we don't have, which is an organizational chart that tells me who is in charge of what organization and what they're leading.
Are you talking about the corporate community or
Yes.
the town community?
I think it's both for the town, where we have employees who are directing this, such as the Director of Human Resources, for the public school department and for the town. She's carrying two loads there. And so some of the data came from her. We need to begin to support her in the efforts that she's putting forth, and for her to decide what she needs to examine first year, second year, third year, because it can change over time.
Excuse me, but that sounds like a school committee issue. Go down to the schools.
It may be, but I have not had the opportunity to share with them as we are sharing with you, based on the data that we gathered. Our first meeting was October 27th, and so for us to look at the 21 documents that we brought in and to begin to examine where we are, to say this is where we're running short and we need to open the door so that we can begin to do more. That's why we're presenting to the committee
Mr.
tonight.
Chairman, because there's an awful lot more here we have to
Also,
talk about.
the town does have an organization chart.
I've not seen one and I've asked for
We
one.
do have, we do have one.
Love to have one because that would be an introduction.
Mr. Morandi?
Absolutely not, nothing.
Mr. Runyon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Bob. It's an awful lot of information for this one subject. It's a worthy endeavor of the group, and I support their efforts. But, you know, I think it's unreasonable to think that Mr. Sagarino can negotiate all of these union contracts in the next 3 months, particularly, I mean, there's certain areas, asking every employee to fill out a self-evaluation sheet and then have it signed by his supervisor and put it in his folder for forever as part of his permanent record, I think is just not going to happen. But I mean, there's, I'm sure there's some things we can do. I'm sure we can make some strides along the way, but certainly not all of this in one fell swoop. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Mr. Morandi?
Yes, just a quick statement. I'm kind of lost here a little bit with some of this stuff. I agree with Mr. Runyon. There's a lot there to fill out, and I think the contract stuff is a huge asset. But personally, I would like to find out what's wrong with what we have. Where's the downside? Why is this all coming in front of us now? If people are just nice to people, that's the bottom line. I don't understand a lot of this stuff, probably because I'm an old school guy. And so my father always taught me, treat people the way you want to be treated. I don't understand a lot of this. I don't get it. I treat people the way I wanted to be treated, and I've always been treated with respect. So I think if it starts at home, when the child's young and moves up the ladder, I think that's how it usually works. I don't understand a lot of this. I'm not against it. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm not against it. I'm trying to understand it. I'm just trying to figure it all out. I don't understand quite a bit of it.
Well, I guess,
This is the format to go into it all, because there was a time factor involved with the rest of our agenda also. We could talk another 2 hours on this.
I could ask one question, and that is, for the select board, why did you create the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee?
That's not the right question. That's almost
But
insulting.
if he's saying that he
That's, Barbara, that's almost insulting, because we want to get to the crux of whatever problem may exist. What you came to us with is an academic thesis that none of us, well, not all of us, a lot of us want to work with, but it's just too much stuff. You need to tune this down. If you want it to go successfully through the town, the community side, the business side, there's just a lot of stuff you expect people to just drop everything they're doing to try to wrap their hands around. It's not that the idea's not wrong, it's just the paperwork that you put before us in such a short period of time. It's got to be done in stages and in steps.
So if I may, I think we all have the same goals. I just think it's how we reach those goals. You're seeing it from an academic perspective. We're seeing it from a select board perspective. The town employee is going to see it from their perspective. And it's a lot of different perspectives that will have input. There'll be, I don't want to say resistance, but there'll be questions. And we just can't, I agree that we just can't say, all right, here it is, let's do this. It is sort of a negotiation with back and forth, especially when it comes to union contracts, because there are certain things we can and cannot do that have to be impact bargained. So again, goals, the board here and your committee, we all have the same goal. We all just want to get along. I just think the approach to getting to that goal varies a little between us, you, and we're going to see a lot of variance among the town employees, among other people in town. So again, we want to get there as well. It's just, we're thinking it from a different set of eyes. We're thinking of it not in the academic sense. And this is a very in-depth report, and like Mr. Hogan said, it's a lot to digest. So that's my 2 cents worth. Anything further from the board? This is just an update. Mr. Priest, I'll just have you give any closing thoughts as you're the liaison.
No, I think that a lot's been discussed tonight, and, the committee, knew before coming before the board tonight that a lot more work has to go into this, so I appreciate everyone's time tonight.
Any further? Barbara, I want to thank you for your efforts. Thank you, your committee, for the efforts. We'll get there.
Thank you.
We just may get there in different paths, but we'll get there, where we're not. And I think Burlington, if you look at, I worked for the police department for 32 years. Burlington Police Department is one of the most diverse police departments I've ever seen. We're well represented across the board. Yes, a majority white males, yeah, majority are. When I first started, we had 1 female officer. Now we have 8 or 9. We have officers from different religions, cultures. Have you looked at the diversity of the police department?
I have not.
You may want to look at that. Just a suggestion. All right. Anything further?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 417. It's an approval for new victualer's license. We can vote these in as a group or individually, whatever the board desires. But I'll turn to Mr. Sagarino for the,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just a slight change of procedure from the way that these were done in the past, and we're going to be taking them up as they come in throughout the year. So you will see this from time to time as new restaurants come to town, as opposed to how you formerly saw them as part of the annual renewal process, so.
Thank you, Mr. Sagarino. Mr. Hogan, any questions on 417?
No, but do you want us to do this individually, or should we, you know, first?
If you wanted to talk about any individual ones, Bob, I would say you probably want to set them aside, but if you're okay with the issuance of the license, you could vote to take them as a group.
Okay,
Anything?
I'm fine, that's it, thank you.
Mr. Priest?
No, I don't have anything this time, thank you.
Mr. Moran?
No questions to me.
Mr. Runyon?
What does Rita's do?
Catering?
Catering.
The catering?
One of the corporate caterers, I
Yeah,
think.
like an in-house, right?
It didn't say anywhere on there.
I'm personally good with taking them all at once. We'll talk about everybody else.
As long as there's no objection, I'll be looking for a motion to approve the new victualer's license for Rita's Enterprises, Citra Fresh Cafe, and Jersey Mike's.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Okay, item 14 is the transfer of a victualler/entertainment/in-holders license at the Hilton Garden Inn, 5 Wheeler Road. Do we have a representative from Hilton Garden Inn, either here
Either here
or with?
or with the WebEx.
Hi there, this is Emily Lustig with Arbor Lodging, representing the incoming owner.
Okay, Emily, you want to give a little brief intro on this?
Sure. This is Arbor Lodging. We're a Chicago, Illinois-based owner and operator of hotels across the country. We have about 35 hotels in our portfolio and are purchasing the hotel from Chatham Lodging. It's currently managed by Island Hospitality, and we are under contract and scheduled to close in the next few weeks. We're still finalizing an exact closing date, but wanted to get the process rolling on the transfer of some of these licenses into our name.
Thank you, Emily. Mr. Sagarino, anything on this?
No, it's just existing licenses that have already been issued for this purpose that are transferring to a new owner.
Okay. Mr. Runyon?
I just wanted, does that include the alcohol license down there?
We will be filing a separate liquor license application. We are just waiting on one item from the seller, and we are hoping to submit that hopefully tomorrow.
Good. Okay. Mr. Randy?
No, nothing.
Mr. Priest?
No.
And Mr. Hogan?
No, I'm good. The question about the alcohol license was answered.
Okay. Again, this is just a transfer, so I'll be looking for motion to approve the transfer.
No.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 500. Next, 419 is change of officer / ownership interest Yard House. We have a representative from Yard House here.
We do. Joe Devlin, I'm a partner at the firm of Upton, Cannell and Devlin.
Mr. Devlin, go ahead.
Yes, so a couple weeks ago, there were some applications there for a change of officer for Seasons 52 and the Capitol Grill and maybe one other. Those are owned by Darden Restaurant Corporation as well. Darden also owns Yard House. This is a later acquired property or concept. So two things are happening here. They have the same officer changes due to retirement of a man by the name of William White and a man by the name of Joe Kern. And to make this concept's ownership structure look like all the other concepts' ownership structure, they are inserting a holding company. That's the change of ownership between Darden Restaurants and Yard House USA Inc. Is now a company called GMRI Inc., which used to be General Mills Restaurant. I can't remember what the I stood for, but that's the holding company on all Darden restaurants. So this is really not a substantive change in ownership. The officers are the same, and then it's 100% owned by the same company, Darden Restaurants Inc.
Thank you, Mr. Devlin.
Sorry, point of order, Mr. Chairman. Did we open public hearing on this?
This is not a public hearing.
It's not.
It's change of votes.
It's actually listed in the newspaper.
It is public hearing.
It says,
My fault.
oh, all right. All right, so that being the case, I'll open the public hearing. And I'll request that the notice as written be read into the record. Do I have a motion to approve the notice as written?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the notice as written into the record. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Okay, Mr. Runyon.
No questions on the transfer.
Okay.
No questions at all. This is a standard transfer that we've seen before.
Okay, and Mr. Priest.
Yeah, no questions from me either.
I have no questions as well. So I'll be looking for motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I gotta ask for the public. Anybody here in favor or want to discuss 419, the change of ownership interest, change of officer / ownership interest, Yard House? Anybody on WebEx that wants to discuss this agenda item? I see none. I'll take a motion.
Close public hearing.
Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain?
Make the motion of change of ownership on Yard House. Is that how you want to put it in there?
Change of officer / ownership interest, Yard House USA Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? It's approved. All set, Mr. Devlin.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you all again.
Okay, item 420 is the new alcohol package store, Liquor Market, 157 Bedford Street. Sir, can you come up to the table and identify yourself for the record?
Hello, my name is Dave Kambati. I am the owner, director, president, and treasurer, and will be the manager of Liquor Market, Inc. The location will be 157 Bedford Street, Unit C.
Okay. I'll go to the subcommittee on this. We do Mr. Morandi.
You're getting good at that. You're getting good at that. 3 more meetings of this.
Yeah.
So we had a subcommittee meeting today on this particular item, and it went very well. He was good enough. Bob had asked for a resume. He sent it right in. You can see his resume here. It's very well. The stuff he's done, we have no problem with it. We were asked a bunch of questions on today's meeting. I couldn't have been any more gracious about what's going on over there. They're going to change it up. He's willing to help out the town of Burlington, whether it's the food pantry or whether it's something going on in town. He met Melissa Talakis. Is that for me? Okay, good. I'm like, I can't see that far. Public hearing.
Okay. Oh, this is another public hearing, that's right. So I'm gonna open this as a public hearing. All right,
So we'll stop for a second.
yeah.
So
So,
I'll have the ad read into the,
yeah, I failed to do that. I need a motion to approve the notices written into the record.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the notices written into the record?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Were you and I?
For what?
This is for getting the notice into the.
Reading the public.
Oh, sure, yeah.
All right, 500 for that.
Of course, he doesn't have to read it. All in favor of that?
Okay, so.
Okay, so, can I go back?
Yes, you can.
I'm all set? Okay. So anyway, we had the meeting today, we went over all that stuff today, and, a very nice young gentleman is gonna try to, pursue a business here in Burlington. I think he's gonna do great over in that section of town. I think myself and Bob are in agreement with it, that, it would be a plus for the town of Burlington.
Thank you, Mr. Rainey. Mr. Hogan?
Yeah, and his strength comes from his family. His brother and a cousin both have their individual businesses, and he's involved in a business he shares up in Lawrence, and he's helped start those businesses, so he's been very involved with his family, knows what he's doing. I think it'll be a plus for the community to have him join us. And again, like Joe says, that's a good section of town that needs a little enlightening, and I think that he's going to be able to help do that. So I support this completely, and thank you for this, Dev, for sending this right over to us.
Of course, of course.
So yeah, I support this also.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Mr. Priest?
No questions.
Mr. Runyon?
Mr. Chairman, all I had, I appreciate getting the resume today. I wasn't quite sure, just reading the application, the resume is rather impressive, so, I'm sure you'll do fine there, and I agree, probably, maybe bring a little extra foot traffic down in that area that would be helpful.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I did want to add in, my plan is to be a part of the community, help the community as much as I can. All throughout high school and throughout my years in college, I've been a part of Students Against Destructive Decisions, so I don't really condone any types of, alcoholism, drug abuse, anything like that. So I plan on, making sure that none of that happens in the community from our location.
Thank you.
Good. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so is there anybody in the room that wants to discuss this agenda item? Is there anybody out on WebEx that wants to discuss this agenda item?
So I'll make a motion to close public hearing, seeing there is nobody.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay, I'll be looking for a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve, new all alcohol package store liquor market, 157 Bedford Street. Sorry, Dave.
Is there a second?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 500.
Thank you.
Welcome to the
Appreciate it.
community.
Welcome to Burlington.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Item 421 is a continued public hearing. We opened it at the last meeting, and the applicant wasn't present. Is the applicant present tonight?
Yes.
Yes, Jeff Harrington.
All right, Jeff, just
Can you just identify yourself for the record, please?
Absolutely, and I apologize for not attending. My name is Jeffrey Harrington. I represent Cambridge Network Solutions. I am the Director of Outside Plant Construction.
Can you give us a little breakdown on this item?
Yes, sir. There are two applications. The first one is at the Burlington Mall Road at the intersection of South Bedford Street. What we're looking to do is try to minimize the disruption to the public right-of-way with digging. It benefits both sides, obviously from a cost perspective and from impacting traffic and having vehicles, construction services in that area. What we tried to do is utilize Eversource existing conduit and Verizon conduit where we could. What you see in front of you down at the South Bedford Street side is areas where there was not sufficient capacity for us to utilize. So what we're looking to do is come off a utility pole on the public right-of-way, trench along in the grass so that we're not in the asphalt, place a structure at the corner of South Bedford Street simply because it's too much of a length to try to pull the cable and make a turn. Then we're asking to dig across Mall Road to get to the other side and punch into a existing Eversource manhole so that we can then utilize conduit heading up towards Middlesex Turnpike. That's the first request that you just read off.
Okay.
With that.
What's that?
I was just saying, let's stay with that first.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna stick with that agenda item for now. Mr. Hogan?
No, not really. It's, from my layman's view, it's pretty clear.
Priest?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my only real question, Mr. Harrington, is who is Cambridge Network Solutions representing here? What is the end goal of this project, of these projects?
Cambridge Network Solutions is an entity thank you for allowing us back. We've actually done a previous dig and grant location approval. We're a dark fiber company. What we do is we sell dark fiber services to different carriers and different providers within the marketplace that do not support their own network. So we sort of bring a diverse solution or a diverse opportunity to commercial entities. This is basically a little bit of a speculative build. We do have a couple of tenants that said if we can get the fiber in there, they would be looking to take services. It's sort of, but they would like us to have the cable in there first to show that we can actually do it. We, again, sell dark fiber services off our main connection that runs up from Boston at some of the major data centers, such as 1 Summer Street, and we continue up through Burlington Billerica, Lexington, up into Lowell to another major data center. And what we do is we just offer connectivity to those providers to reach enterprise or commercial businesses within that cable footprint.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Mr. Morandi?
No, no questions.
Mr. Runyon?
No, this is pretty straightforward to me, Mr. Chairman, all set here.
Thank you. I just have a couple of quick questions. This is regarding, it says a utility pole and concrete and sidewalk. Will you be digging into the asphalt itself?
When we cross the street, so what we'll be looking to do at the utility pole, we'll be coming off the pole, and I believe that is all grass, because we're looking to come away from the school that's there, or the daycare facility that's there, and then we'll be coming through the grass, but then once we cross the street, we will be proposing to dig in the asphalt and the sidewalk.
Okay. What time of day or time of year are you doing this?
To be honest with you, like everything else, everybody wants it done right away once you get an approval, but I would yield to, I would assume the DPW may or may not have winter moratoriums in place. If that's usually the case, that's usually after April 15th. And then we are used to working days, nights, and weekends. So again, I'm not trying to push it off, but I yield to probably it'll show up on our permit of when they feel is the best time. I know that between the hospital, being local to this area, I live in the neighboring town of Wilmington, and my wife actually works for Leahy. So knowing that area, I know how busy it is. So I would envision they'll either issue some sort of a night or weekend permit, and we'll certainly work with that.
Okay. With regards to Leahy, is there any sort of public notification to the area cities and towns? Because that is a very, very busy hospital. And they have ambulances going constantly.
What we've done is, with some of the work that's been going on up on the Middlesex Turnpike, mainly in sort of the Bedford area, but it gives you an example, is we've had to work with, every time we need to work out in the street, it's a coordination with the police and fire departments to obviously make sure that 1 lane or 2 lanes of traffic are open. One of the projects that we had approved before was at a very tough intersection of Bedford Street, Burlington Street, and Network Drive, which is in your town. And we coordinated that to keep it open. So we're used to coordinating that sort of, major thoroughfare because of the access to Leahy. And what I would envision doing is we would dig one side of the street, keep the other side of the street open, go home for the night or the weekend day, and then start again on the other side. So always keeping 2 lanes of traffic open so that ambulances and fire trucks can get through it. It's something we used to every day, even in the Boston market, where the street's a little bit tighter. This area affords a little bit better, even though it is very busy. It's wide enough that we can keep 2 lanes of traffic open at each while we're doing the construction. We just have to alternate it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Harrington. Where this is anything further from the board? Where this is a public hearing, is there anybody in the meeting room that wants to talk about this agenda item? Is there anybody on WebEx that wants to discuss this agenda item?
Seeing there's none, Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to close the public hearing.
Motion's been made to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor of closing the public hearing? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 500 to close the public hearing. That being said,
I'll be looking for a motion to approve, if so thought.
Make a motion to grant the location Cambridge Network Solutions, Burlington Mall Road and South Bedford Street.
Second.
And it's moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 500. Okay, item 422. It's also a continued open public meeting, open meeting. And it's also for Cambridge Network Solutions, and this is at 66 Mall Road. Mr. Harrington?
Yes, again, Jeffrey Harrington from Cambridge Network Solutions, Director of Construction, Outside Plant Construction.
Okay.
We request this dig for the other end of that fiber optic cable we just spoke of. We were utilizing existing Eversource conduit along Mall Road. Unfortunately, where we want to get off, if you will, onto the Enterprise Drive area business park, there is no sufficient conduit available to lease. So what we need to do is construct our own lateral. We're asking, the good part of this request is, or the better beneficial part is, where the Eversource conduit lies, we do not have to cross all lanes of traffic. We only have to cross the traffic
leaving Middlesex Turnpike, heading towards Route 3A. Those are the two spans of traffic that we have to cross. Again, the assumption would be that we would keep one lane of traffic open while we cross that section. We will have to remove a section of granite sidewalk, and then once we're on the private right-of-way, deal with the property owner and management company of that facility to enter their private conduit system.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. I'll start with Mr. Runyon.
It's 66 Mall Road. You're not talking Middlesex Turnpike here.
No, I'm sorry, I should have, in the direction of travel, we'll be cutting Mall Road, and we'll be cutting Mall Road on the side, I call it the southerly side, if you will, or the side where traffic flows from Middlesex Turnpike towards Route 3A.
Okay, I thought I had heard Middlesex Turnpike somewhere. Okay, no question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Morandi?
No, without one, you can't have the other, so.
Okay, Mr. Priest?
No.
Mr. Hogan?
Nope.
And I have nothing either, so I'll be looking, hold on, public hearing. Is there anybody in this room that wants to talk about this agenda item? Is there anybody out on WebEx that wants to talk about this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll be looking for a motion.
Motion to close
Close
the public hearing.
All right, so moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 500 to close the public hearing. Is there a
I'll make a
motion?
motion to grant location Cambridge Network Solutions, 66 Mall Road, Burlington Mall Road.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you, Mr. Harrington.
Thank you very much, good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, item 423 is approval of minutes from November 8th, 2021.
Approve the regular minutes, 11/8/2021.
Could I ask a question?
Certainly.
Was this not on the agenda once before already?
What's that?
The date, the minutes for,
It was taken off. There was a mistake on it. So we didn't vote on it.
oh, okay.
We
I
corrected
think
it.
I omitted it from the record.
Right.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second has been made to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay, subcommittee reports. Mr. Hogan?
No.
Okay. Mr. Priest?
Thank you. As you gentlemen know, in a couple meetings, the end of March, we'll have our pre-kickoff meeting with the folks from the Collins Center. Their team will be joining us via WebEx to kick off the communications plan. Super excited for that. And the reason that I bring it up is because, as you may have heard, local newspapers continue to regionalize in an effort to maintain subscriptions and readership, which of course limits how local news is disseminated amongst the population. And of course, we have BCAT, who does a phenomenal job reporting on all things Burlington, and we, what? Yeah, well, right, I'm getting there too. Okay. You know, and I thank Rich and the entire, BCAT staff for everything they do. We also have the patch, as Bob was saying, which again, does a lot of hyper-local news. Recently, a resident, Nikki Cadillac, has started Burlington Buzz, and it's at Burlington Buzz on Twitter and Facebook, as well as a website called burlingtonbuzz.substack.com. She started about a week and change ago and already has over 800 subscriptions, which is fantastic. And her goal is to continue delivering hyper-focused Burlington news and awareness. And so, as we look to consider what the municipality is going to aim at, we also want to focus on ways that the community gets involved and, continues keeping that local voice alive. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Priest. Mr. Morandi?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I just want to let everyone know that the hunting season went very well. A couple of mishaps with tree stands, but other than that, there was no incidents with bikers or joggers or anybody else for the hunting season. I know I missed the last meeting. I just wanted to go over that quick. Secondly, I'd like to big shout out to Mr. C, Bob Masigan, for 35 1,000 years of playing. For a lot of years of coaching hockey here in town, a lot of kids, yeah, a lot of
Might have
kids
been
love them.
30,000 kids, yeah.
Yeah, 30,000, did I reverse that? I'm sorry. 30,000 kids and 35 years of coaching, but I just want to say congratulations to a great high school coach that you get to mentor kids as they grow, and these kids still go back and see them, and they still love them, and he had a couple of great kids, and it just makes men. He makes men on that hockey team. He's accountable for what they're doing and what they have. So, Bob, I just want to say congratulations from myself and the board.
Thank you, Mr. Runyon. Mr. Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to mention a couple of people briefly I've been thinking about. You know, we've had a lot of turnover in the office in the last month or so. We had a very nice, fond farewell for Betty and Sandy. Jean Gallant, who had served this town for many, many, many years. She was that first person you encounter when you come to step into the selectman's office, or you're phoning the selectman's office. And, you know, every time I went in, I was always greeted with a smile and a warm hello. And every time I heard her speaking on the phone to the citizens in town and people that do business in town, she greeted them all the same way. First impressions are very important in local government, and I think everybody that first encountered Jean Gallant while she was here had a very good first impression and very good experience. May not have been, say, the same when they left Paul's office, but they certainly enjoyed the greeting they got from Jean. And so when Jean left, not everybody wants to go out with the bells and the whistles, and Jean decided that she just wanted to go kind of quietly, and I wanted to take this opportunity to recognize her for her friendship, number one, and I know I speak for all of us in this room, as well as her years of service, and you know, I wish her well in this next chapter of her life. I'd also just like to take a moment to recognize a good friend of mine, Don Flaherty, and I know he's a friend of everybody here as well. Don's going through some difficult time right now, and I just wanted to let him know we're thinking about him. He's been very active in the town, as you all know, from anywhere from 4th of July committee, the post-grad party. He was always chaperone's post-grad party. He had his time, he's very active in BCAT and everything in between. So, but I just wanted to let Don and his family know we're thinking about him. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Runyon. I have nothing. Mr. Sagarino?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple items. Last Thursday, we had the open house with the ambulance billing services over at the COA. I guess about 20 people attended. I guess it was well received by everyone that was there, and BCAT's gonna put together some clips to try to put together a news segment on it. So I think it went pretty well overall, and I just wanted to thank John Denizio for organizing that and following that through. The second thing is, at our meeting on March 14th, we have a very important presentation, so we're gonna try to keep the agenda pretty light there. There's some new legislation at the state called MBTA Communities, which basically has some implications for the town in terms of providing areas in town where multi-family housing can be built as a right. And our whole team is going to be working on that. But the first part of that is a presentation at a select board meeting by town council, who'll be giving that presentation to the board and the community. And we intend to invite all the other interested boards in town to attend that session. So just want to give you a heads up to that and let you know that that's going to be coming on at our meeting on March 14th. You may notice in here we have a new rug for the first time since probably the building was renovated. Great job by the facilities department in coordinating that for us. It's always nice to get the office space freshened up, and they've done a great job with that over the past few years. Lastly, I just wanted to mention, we looked into the issue of porta potties on the common that keeps coming up. Apparently, a previous select board, years ago, had determined that they didn't like the look of porta potties on the common. But we certainly, Lynn and I have decided that we'll pay for the porta potties if you guys just stop asking about them. But at some point, we will need to make a decision on where to place those on the common, and we can get them out there for the entire summer, as long as that's okay with the board in terms of, you know, how they look on the common, so.
Would it be okay if the high school kids come up and painted them a certain color and made designs on them and stuff, and then they could,
Well, they-
wouldn't look as bad as a green box
do
sitting on the
have-
common?
I guess you could say they have a high-end version as well, but, yeah, they may not look great, but it's better than the alternative.
Yeah, so we'll be looking for some board advice as to where you think we should place them on the common to best hide them from the,
Does it have to be on the common?
pardon me?
Does it actually have to be on the common?
I
We
think,
got an awful lot of space here, where we have cardboard that we could cover up the dumpsters out here, and
well,
does it have to be on the common?
I think there's been some areas where maybe they were placed sort of in, next to the annex, in between the annex and the fire station is another option. We could put it on the grassy area in between there so that they're near the common. So we'll be looking for some input from you folks in terms of where those should be placed on the common at a future
Just
meeting.
real quick, Bob's gonna be gone soon.
Anything else, Mr. Segorino?
That's all, thank you, sir.
Any old new business? No? Citizens' time. Anybody in the room for citizens' time? Please come up and identify yourself for the record, please. Sherry, I see you out there. Right there.
Can you just come to this one, because they can't see you, anyone in that seat, I guess. Thank you.
Joanne Frustacci, Town 3 Precinct member. I haven't watched one of these meetings in years, so I turned it on at 7 because I wanted to tune into the affordable housing presentation. Those were two really intelligent presentations, and I appreciated that they got commendation from Mr. Tigas. And then what followed was something that made me feel very embarrassed. And I'm going to ask, is there a way in which you all have thought over and decided how residents should be treated when they come before this board? Do you have a kind of a dignity and respect clause or anything that you come to a determination about how people should be treated?
I'm not, is that like a question, do we have a policy on that, or?
Yeah, a policy or just an ethic?
Why don't you be specific, Joanne?
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
sure I understand.
I thought that the way that this lady was spoken to was really hostile and antagonistic, and I'm not sure why, and I don't have any involvement, I don't even know her name. But when I came in, I whispered to her that I was sorry and that I was going to address it, because I also not only heard things that I was surprised to hear from people, I didn't hear anyone else speak up. And there's a see something, say something fundamental with around issues of diversity and equity and inclusion. So you're supposed to speak up when you see someone treated in a way that you don't think is right. And that's why I
Okay, Mr. Chairman, may
Put my
I speak to
clothes
Joanne's?
on.
Can I just remind the
Sure.
board members, it's citizens' time, we should listen to the citizens.
I know,
voice.
but I want to respond to her question.
okay.
But we shouldn't have a lot of
No,
interaction
we should.
on.
And that goes both ways, because I felt the question that we were asked was insulting, and I responded to that. So, you know, of course, we treat everybody with dignity and respect. But in return, we expect a little bit of that also. So the question that was asked of us, I thought, was insulting in asking the question. So that's why I responded by saying that.
You mean earlier or now when I was?
No, earlier.
So you felt insulted?
Yes,
Okay, we're
yes.
getting somewhere. So I am going to ask your forbearance. You all have known me for a long time. I'm quite an agitator and an activist. I speak up for people who I think are not being treated well. and that's a social work ethic of mine. I'm going to ask you, please, to watch this meeting, to watch what you each said, and think about what wasn't said. And this issue that is being brought before you has to do with laws that may be being broken. If I were in your shoes, I would say, are we, Mr. Sagarino, are we following all the laws correctly? Do we have this buttoned up? How can we get it buttoned up? Perhaps that's too much to undertake over the next 3 months, but let's figure out how we can button this up, Mr. Sagarino. That's what I would want to see from a board, and that's what I think you owe us. I understand these are painful issues and that change is hard, and I understand that if we start to open up hiring, policies and practices that aren't written will get looked at and scrutinized, and maybe people's friends won't get hired. I don't know. That's kind of a stretch, but this is really serious. And if you're not abiding by all the laws, if HR has too much on her plate and can't do all of it and doesn't have the record she should have, I think you should be asking this man, who I have a lot of respect for, what can we do to support you in making sure this happens? And when someone speaks up who has 45 years experience, and all right, was it pedantic? There's a word for you. Maybe it was. Maybe she's smarter than me. Maybe she's smarter than you. I can cope with that. I think you all are not so threatened individuals that you can't cope with that too. And Mr. Hogan, you've spent a lifetime serving this town. You should go out on a high note. And if this woman deserves an apology, I hope tomorrow you'll look at what you said, think it over, and maybe offer that apology. Because I got a text, the reason I'm here, I was in my pajamas at home, I must admit. The reason I'm here is because I got a text from a minority person in this town who said, I'm crying over this. You have to think about that. Somebody is crying because of what was said here earlier. She's not, she's strong, she's older. I am too. You can't make me cry. But there's a younger parent who texted me and said, maybe I made a mistake moving to this town. So please think about it. I implore you. Okay, that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Anybody else in the room for citizens' time? We have two, I recognized Sherry earlier, so Sherry, go ahead.
It's all yours.
Thank you, Chairman Tigas. I can't be silent either. What I heard tonight, I was in the room earlier and I had left, and I came home and I sat down and turned back on the TV, and I was horrified, embarrassed. This board represents this town, and for this board to sit here and say that this town is fine, what's wrong with it, when this woman who's been charged, when BJ and her fellow committee members, including Member Priest, have put together a lot of information. Maybe it's too much information for you folks to digest at once, but you could say that in a better tone. I agree with Mrs. Pristacci that the tone of this meeting, I hope you will go back and watch, was embarrassing to me as a resident of this town. And I really hope that all of you consider that, and in your future actions. I can't even believe what I just heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Martha, I believe, Martha, you just want to identify yourself because I only see the name Martha.
Hi, yes, this is Martha Duffield. I'm the president of BAR, is how you might know me. I'm also the chief equity officer in the town of Lexington. It's really unfortunate that I'm jumping on this call, as I have been receiving text messages left and right about the behavior that has been delivered by people in a position of power to somebody who they have selected to serve them and provide them information in an area which they might not be as comfortable or as educated in. And, this is what I do for my job. There's many communities who elect to hire positions like mine that are not just Lexington. I know the town of Danvers, who I know we compare ourselves a lot to, also is hiring this type of a role, because there is a lack of interest in public service as a profession. As we look at the numbers of, the age and our demographics of our staff, it is very clear that we're going to have problems running our own operations. And so having our leaders be welcoming and inclusive to the diversity that is moving into our town, that would be in our own best interest. I know that I talked to my police chief, I talked to my fire chief, I talked to my DPW director and my human services and my library director, and every single person across the board is saying, we're not getting the applications we used to. We just had a senior civil engineering job posted in the town of Lexington, one of the premier engineering towns across Massachusetts, and he got 0 applications for his senior civil engineering position. There's never open positions in that department because it is so well run. We are having our fire chief telling me, he's like, I got 8 applications for this job, 8. And he's like, by the time I got to interview everybody, we were down to 6. So I think that when we're thinking about how we treat people who might show us something that's different, maybe the difference is actually something that we should be valuing, because it will actually benefit us to see something that we're not used to seeing and look at the bigger picture, because we are going to be running out of staff and we're not going to have the pipelines that we need. And the staff that do come here, they're going to turn around and leave if they're not feeling welcomed. So even if you get someone who is a person of color, or you get someone who's a younger generation, these are the issues that people care about. It might not feel that way to somebody who hasn't had to deal with diversity, equity, inclusion. These words might feel different, but let me tell you, the younger generation cares, and no one's going to work for a place or live in a place where they feel like their lived experiences are not going to be valued or treated with respect and dignity. So thank you for the time to speak, but I'm really disappointed in the response to the work that a committee did that was chosen. I've seen you all at the AAPI Stop Hate Vigil. I've seen you at the Black Lives Rally Matters, and this response to this report, it is not walking the walk for sure.
Thank you, Martha. Who else is here who's on the WebEx for citizens time? Patricia.
Good evening. I sit here shaking. Last week, I suffered my own personal episode of being embarrassed in front of my community by members of this select board. Today, I want to say that I stand with the findings of the DEI subcommittee. I stand with BJ Addison. I stand with all of the residents who served to work on this and to report back to you what they have found about our community and our administration and our leadership. I don't think I need to remind you that last fall, overwhelmingly, town meeting members recognized that we have an issue in this town and that it needed to be addressed. Thankfully, we started in the schools with our children. I ask you, as leaders, if you don't understand this issue, listen to people who do. Learn from them. And if you cannot listen and learn, you need to reconsider your role as a leader in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Anybody else for citizens time? Yes, is that Sherry again?
Yes, thank you. I see that Mr. Ray Porch is here. He's come on the screen, and I'd like to hear his perspective, if I can ask if he would like to say anything. Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Porch?
Yes. How are you guys doing?
Okay.
Good. So I was on earlier. I was asked to attend and hear the dialogue around Dr. Addison Reed and that team, that DEI committee team, and the work that they've been trying to put in. They did through the chair. It was a suggestion to reach out to me, and they have been, and I was appreciative of the effort that they put in. I heard some dialogue or conversation, because I understand that sometimes language is difficult for some folks. So I wanna keep it simple. I I think that what I heard tonight is a combination of a couple of things. I think that there's definitely some learning that needs to happen with you good folks. I know you all are committed, passionate about your town of Burlington and long-term servants of this community. And I think that there's a lot of value in that when people serve for long periods of time. It means that there's a commit. And I think that that's an asset, meaning a positive thing, right? But I also think what you're hearing from your community members in the short time that I've been on here is that there's a need to think a little bit harder about what's next. As you find folks know, the future isn't just yours. It is your young people, your grandchildren, your children who will continue to live on and move forward. And what I would hope, I think we all would hope, is that they have it a little bit better. Some of these things that we're experiencing in our communities, in our school district, across our country with the division, I think it can be very scary, so I want to name that. I can appreciate folks not understanding. There's 3 levels of resistance in life. There's I don't understand. There's I don't like the message. And then there's I don't like you. And I think that in my short time in Burlington, I've seen and witnessed these levels of resistance. And I think it's hard to dislike people that you don't know. So I would just ask that folks really be thoughtful. You find folks on that committee to be thoughtful about what you're hearing from your residents, which again, Dr. Addison Reed is 45 years a resident of Burlington. And to kind of hear those kind of responses is like, wow, I'm really, kind of taken aback. So again, learning, we all are trying to learn as humans, this idea of academic language being something that's negative, this idea that, when we don't understand something or when we see or hear something that sounds different, that we are immediately defensive or resistant. I can tell you, working in schools for 20 plus years, our young people are pliable, meaning they are able to adjust. And I would hope that we think on some of that and some of what I heard tonight for the betterment of your grandchildren and your children and their experiences in this town. Change is inevitable. It isn't whether you or us, we want it to or not, it's inevitable. And it doesn't have to be something bad. I think part of the challenge that we're having and seeing is that when we don't understand, we immediately think of it as something that's negative. And I think that holds true for most human beings, myself included. I think what we can do together is continue the conversation and ask questions and be mindful that, when people are different or their experiences are different, that's an opportunity. But when we shut down those opportunities, that's when we see divisiveness. And, fear happens to all of us the same. Our short-term memories go out the window. We we stop listening. We get defensive. These kinds of things don't help us move forward as a community, whether it's Burlington or any place else. So I would just ask that folks really spend some time in reflection and spend some time talking to people that have these experiences, because your experience may not be somebody else's, and their experience is no less important than yours. And I think your children and your children's children understand that, and you want to be mindful, So that's the only thing I would add to what I've heard, some of what I heard tonight before I had to pop off and deal with my own grandson. But you got some wonderful people trying to do good work to bring this community together. And I think, my small piece of advice would be to listen to those folks and to continue to do your work. Learn about different people from different experiences. Learn about what this work means and what the impact could be. Ask hard questions, no doubt. Ask hard questions. But do it with your mind open and with your heart open. Is what I would suggest, and take that for what it's worth. But that would be the 2 cents that I would add. Thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate you all. You good folks have a great night.
Thank you, Mr. Porch. Any further citizens' time? Any requests for citizens? Okay, being none, I'll be looking for motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moving second, all those in favor? Aye, opposed, staying, meeting adjourned.